You may have seen Vindaloo on the menu at your favorite Indian restaurant. A hot curry with chunks of beef, lamb, or goat in a rich dark red sauce. Today I'm going to be making a more traditional version of this dish, Goan pork Vindaloo. It's similar in many ways to its modern equivalent, but its unique flavors are put on show, not covered up by heat. Now this dish has a very interesting history, which I'll get into later on in this video. But for now, let's get cooking. We're going to start this dish out by making the curry sauce, which is traditionally made with Kashmiri chilies. Sadly, real Kashmiri chilies are hard to find in Canada, so we're going to be substituting them with a mix of black tea, the more common guajillo chili, and paprika. The guajillos will give the curry a rich chili base flavor, the black tea will replicate the floral notes of Kashmiri chilies, and the paprika will lend some sweetness and color to the sauce. We're going to start by preparing the guajillo chilies for the sauce. First, grab a medium-sized bowl. Then, take a dried guajillo chili and rip off the stem, shake out the seeds, and tear into medium-sized pieces. Repeat with the remaining 3 chilies and place them in the bowl. Once in the bowl, pour half a cup of water over them and put them in the microwave for around 1 minute and 30 seconds on high. Take the bowl out of the microwave, cover it with tinfoil, and place to the side while we prepare the spice mix. For the spice mix, grab a small bowl. Put around 2 teaspoons of or 1 teabag full of black tea in the bowl, along with a tablespoon of paprika, a tablespoon of cumin, 2 teaspoons of salt, several cranks of black pepper, around a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, more if you like it spicy, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of cardamom, a quarter teaspoon of ground cloves, and a quarter teaspoon of nutmeg. Next, let's prepare the aromatics for the sauce, a simple combination of ginger and garlic. Start by peeling about a 1-inch piece of ginger and roughly chop that into pieces. Then, place about 6 or 7 garlic cloves on your cutting board, squash them with the flat side of your knife, and roughly chop them into pieces. Place your aromatics, your spice mix, and your softened guajillo chilies to the side. Now we're going to blend our sauce together. Take your guajillos and scoop them and their steeping liquid into a blender, toss in your aromatics, and pour in your spice mix. Then blend for around 30 seconds or until you get a somewhat smooth paste. Once you've got a paste, pour in the remaining half a cup of water and blend again until you get a smooth paste, about 1 minute. After you've blended your sauce, take 1 to 1.5 kilograms of cubed pork and place them in a plastic bag, along with your curry sauce. Massage the bag to make sure the sauce evenly coats the pork, and place to the side while we prepare the last few ingredients. Now, before we cut up the onions, preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Once you're done with that, place 1 large onion on your cutting board, chop it in half, peel it, and dice each half into small pieces. Once you've diced your onion, roughly mince it until the pieces look about uniform and place to the side. Next, in a large Dutch oven, heat up a couple tablespoons of any neutral tasting oil, I used peanut, over medium heat until shimmering. Next, toss in your onions, stir in a pinch of salt, and cook until they've picked up a light golden color. Optionally, stir in a few tablespoons of butter or ghee to add some more richness to the dish. Once your onions are cooked, dump the pork into the pot, mix with the onions and flatten into an even layer. Now, as we bring the pork up to temperature before it transferring to the oven, let me tell you a little bit about the history of Goan pork Vindaloo. Vindaloo is a dish with an interesting and complex history. Its history dates back to the Portuguese attempt to gain a foothold in the trade empires of Asia. The Portuguese battled through the Arabian Sea in order to get to India, one of the main hubs of trade in Asia. Eventually, after clawing their way through the Indian Navy, the Portuguese managed to seize the port of Goa. It was the perfect place for them to finally set up their Asian trade headquarters. Of course, the local rulers were not very happy with the Portuguese for trying to take their land and fought back vehemently, but eventually the Goans were defeated by the naval power of the Portuguese in their attempts to get rid of them. The Portuguese were there to stay, and this led their culture to reshape and meld with the culture of Goa, for better or for worse. The Portuguese converted much of the population of Goa, which was mostly Muslim at the time, to Catholicism throughout their 400-year stay. This change is most evidently seen in their food, where even to this day a heavy Portuguese influence is seen. The use of pork is one very obvious change. Pork is not a very common ingredient in India due to its large Muslim population. Vindaloo is probably the most well-known Indian dish that has Portuguese roots, but few know that it was originally made with pork. The dish likely originates from a Portuguese dish that I cannot pronounce, so I'll just put it on the screen. A stew of wine, garlic, and pork. The Portuguese didn't have many of the ingredients needed to make the dish in India, so they turned to the native population for their knowledge of local ingredients. They substituted the wine with coconut vinegar and added in many more spices that the Portuguese would not normally have had access to, such as cloves, nutmeg, ginger, and all the others we've put into the dish. They even added Kashmiri chilies, which has a sense of irony since chilies had been introduced to Asia only decades before by the same Portuguese who now colonized Goa. This dish is a perfect example of people taking something forced upon them by their oppressors and making it their own. Now that you know a little bit about the history of Goan pork Vindaloo, let's finish with the cooking. Once your Vindaloo has been bubbling for a couple minutes, transfer it to a preheated stew pot and place in the oven for 40 minutes. After 40 minutes, take your pot back out of the oven. Then, pour in a quarter cup of apple cider vinegar, or coconut vinegar if you have any, and give it a stir. Transfer the pot back into the oven and continue to cook for another 40 to 45 minutes, or until the pork is nice and tender. Let the pot sit uncovered on your stovetop for 10 minutes to let the sauce thicken up a bit. Now that we've spent all that time making the dish, it's time to finally taste the fruits of our labor, to put it dramatically. Give it a stir and serve it simply on top of some basmati rice or with naan if you have any. Before I try it, let me get a nice close-up of it. There we go. Now it's time to dig in. And wow, it's delicious. The pork is nice and tender, the sauce coating it is rich and flavorful. I think this is a dish that everyone should try, and of course the pork can be swapped out for almost any other meat. I'm really glad that I got to make and eat a version of this dish so close to the original, and learn about the complex and dividing history of its colonial roots. A lot can be learned through the history of food, and the changes it undergoes throughout that history. I hope this video sparks your curiosity and makes you question when and where your food came from just a little bit more. Thanks for watching.